Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are going to try to build a base roster for My Hero 1 Justice 3. I've been seeing this topic going around on Reddit, and I think it's a really fun discussion, honestly, because even though we don't currently have any confirmation that we're even getting a 1 Justice 3, I still think it's fun, and I wanted to try to build a base roster for the game. But before we dive into the video, I just want to give a quick spoiler warning for the latest season of the My Academia anime, which is season 5. So just in case you haven't caught up with the anime, I just want to let you guys know that there are going to be spoilers in this video. Now with all that out of the way, let's just dive into this video. So, how do we start building a base roster for 1 Justice 3 when we have basically no knowledge of it because the game doesn't exist? So let's think about it. Well, if we look at the past data, 1 Justice 1 had 20 characters on its base roster, with 3 DLC as well, bringing the total roster to 23 characters. 1 Justice 2 had 40 characters on its base roster, with 11 DLC, bringing the total to 51 characters on its roster. So since we are building the base roster for 1 Justice 3, we're going to look at the base information. We can look at this data in 3 ways. The first way we can look at this data is basically they add 20 new characters to the base roster of each new game. So basically, the first game's base roster was 20, the second base roster was 40, so the third one could be 60, 60 unique characters. The second way we can look at it is basically they double the roster size between games. Because basically you can look at 1 Justice 1 having 20 characters, and then when they went to 1 Justice 2, they doubled it to 40. So that means 1 Justice 3 could have 80 characters. And then the final way we can look at it is basically this means nothing. They can just throw any random amount of characters onto a new roster. This data absolutely means nothing. But for this video, we are going to look at the doubling theory. The reason why we're going to do that is because it gives us a base of how many characters we can add to the roster. So if they bring back every character from this game, which I don't see why they wouldn't, seeing that they brought every character back from the first game into the second, we have to try to come up with 29 unique characters for the base roster of 1 Justice 3. Now that we have a base for the base roster, it's time to pick some characters. Now usually the characters that get selected for the game usually, not all of them, but usually are added because they need to be in the campaign or the story mode. They're needed for the campaign. Now, if they do a 1 Justice 3, my theory is they will cover the campaign from the Cultural Festival arc all the way to the My Villain Academia arc. So that gives us a lot of time to work with, time in the series. So they could add a ton of new characters. So let's just start working our way through each arc. So starting off with the Cultural Festival arc. So basically with this arc, I think it's not going to bring any new additions to the game. I think it's just going to kind of be the first part of the campaign, but have no new additions character wise. The reason why I think that is because there's not really anyone you can pull from that. We already have Gentle Criminal, which is the main antagonist. So I mean, we don't really have anything else to pull from. So we're starting off with 0 brand new characters from that arc. So moving on to the next arc, we have the Pro Hero arc. And we have 2 new additions from this arc. So the first new addition is Hood. I think that's pretty obvious because he's the main antagonist of that arc. It would be good because you can have multiple battles in the campaign with Endeavor fighting Hood and maybe Hawks fighting Hood. So I definitely can see them adding Hood. Not to mention, I feel like it's, about time we get a Haya Nomu in the game, and I feel like Hood would be a perfect fit. The second new addition, which may be kind of weird, but I can totally see it happening, is Mirko. Now, even though we didn't see her do a lot in that arc, we technically see her fight Dabi for a brief amount of time, which I can totally see them turning into a small battle. Not to mention, she is extremely popular in the community, with many people wanting her in the game. Also, theoretically, if we did get a 1 Justice 3, the release of the game would probably be during Season 6 or after Season 6, and to my knowledge, I have heard Mirko does big things in the next arc, which is going to be happening during Season 6, so that would drum up hype for her, the game, and yeah, I mean, I can totally see that happening. Not to mention, by that time, hopefully she has enough for a proper moveset. So yeah, I can totally see them adding Mirko, and that is the second new addition I have for 1 Justice 3. Alrighty, so moving on to the next arc, we have the Joint Training arc, and buckle up, we have a ton of characters from this arc. So first, we have the last of the Class 1A characters that are not in the My Hero 1 Justice series, basically being Ojiro, Koda, Sato, Shoji, Sero, and Hagakure. So that's 6 new characters right there. The reason why is because, well, I mean, do I really need a reason? I think it's crazy that the entire class isn't in a My Hero 1 Justice game yet. I feel like that's wild. Not to mention they are kind of needed to tell the joint training arc, seeing that the arc is literally about Class 1A fighting Class 1B. So I feel like, we need them. Also, I know some people are probably thinking, wait, how are some characters like Agakure or Koda gonna work? They're more like support and stealth characters. And my answer to that is, well, I think they can work. I mean, I have a whole series on the channel talking about how certain characters can work. It's called the How They Can Work series. I make movesets for characters, and I have made movesets for all the other missing Class 1A characters. So if you want some ideas of how these characters could technically work, you can go check out those videos if you like. But yeah, I definitely think they can work though. Alrighty, so moving on to our next group of characters, we have some Class 1B students because, the joint training arc is about Class 1A fighting Class 1B, and I feel like we need more Class 1B students to, fill up some of those matches during the campaign because, I think they need it for that arc. So let's go over the group we have. And we have a lot of them because there are a lot of them that kind of like stand out during this arc. So starting off the list, we have Ibara. Then we also have Jutaro, Rin, Kuroiro, Komori, Manga, Hononuki, Kaibara, Tsunatori, Setsuna, Awase, Kamakiri, Monoma, and Shota. So that's 14 new characters also getting added from this arc. And the reason why I chose these Class 1B students is because I feel like they play the most prominent roles during the joint training arc for the 1B side. So they could like make battles throughout the campaign to match those moments with these 1B students that stood out pretty prominently. And then finally, to wrap up the joint training arc, I have Black Whip Deku. So that's another new character. And the reason why I say Black Whip Deku will probably be added is because I feel like they would add a new Deku into this game. So I chose Black Whip Deku because first off, his role in the joint training arc, was a pretty big moment in that arc. And on top of that, I can totally see his moveset being extremely different compared to the other Dekus. Also, I know some people are probably thinking, well, what about Air Force Deku? You could have totally added him during the Cultural Festival arc. And my answer to that is, I don't really think we need an Air Force Deku. The main reason why is because I feel like they could add Air Force into the Black Whip Deku's moveset, or they can just update Shoot Style's moveset to include Air Force, so we don't really need a whole Deku surrounding Air Force, which is just one ultimate attack that he just basically fires a projectile. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they really need to add Air Force Deku. I feel like they can just include Air Force in an updated moveset of Shoot Style, or add it to the Black Whip Deku. That's basically my opinion on that, but who knows, maybe they'll add 2 new Dekus, one with Air Force and one with Black Whip. That totally can happen. Now moving on to the Endeavor's Agency arc, we have one new addition, which is Ending. So that's another new character added onto the roster. Just like Hood, I feel like we would need him for the campaign, for like some matches to cover that arc. I can see him fighting Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, or Endeavor. I can totally see like a match between them and Ending. So I feel like we would need Ending for the campaign, just like we need Hood for the campaign. So yeah, I can totally see them adding Ending. So yeah. And moving on to the final arc, we have the My Villain Academia arc. So first we have Spinner. So that's another new character. Just like the rest of Class 1A, I feel like it's crazy that we don't have the entire League of Villains in the One Justice series yet. Like, I just feel like that's so crazy. The next group of characters we have is Ray Destro, Curious, and Getten. So that's 3 new characters. So I feel like out of the entire Meta Liberation Army, which is the kind of like main antagonist of this arc, these 3 would have like the most combat potential and like moveset potential. So I feel like they would fit. And not to mention, you can have Ray Destro versus Shigaraki. You can have Curious versus Toga. Getten versus Dabi. Like, I can just totally see that happening. So yeah. And then finally, for the last character on the roster, I have Awakened Shigaraki. Just like Deku, I feel like they would add another new kind of like Shigaraki into this game. So I chose this Shigaraki because I feel like he would stand out compared to the other Shigarakis, and it would make the most sense for the campaign. So yeah, that is the base roster I have designed for My Hero 1 Justice 3. Alrighty, so let's look over the roster I have built here. So yeah, I definitely think this is a pretty good roster. First off, 80 characters for a base roster is pretty good. Again, the 80 comes from the 51 coming over from 1 Justice 2, so that's every character we have currently in the current 1 Justice game getting added into 1 Justice 3. And then basically to get it to 80, we have the 29 new characters that I've added from each of like the arcs that I feel like the campaign would cover. So yeah, I definitely think these characters will work. They definitely have prominent roles in these arcs. They have moveset potential. I think they'd be pretty cool. So yeah, I definitely think there's like a little bit of everything, and that's why I think these characters would work for a base roster. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with this base roster. I definitely think it works. I know there are other popular characters like Best Genius, for example, that didn't make it onto my base roster, but the reason why is because characters like that didn't really do much in these arcs, but seeing that they are popular in the community, I can probably guess they would be DLC in my mind, because, you know, DLC is characters that are popular, because, you know, that way people will, you know, purchase them. So I can totally see like characters who didn't make it onto the base roster being added in as DLC. Like, I feel like those characters make the most sense for DLC. Also, I know there's some characters like Endeavor, Twice, or Toga, for example, that some people would like to see get other variations of. But in my mind, I feel like they wouldn't do that. I feel like they would just keep the ones they already have, and they would just update their movesets to fit the new arcs. I feel like that way it would be easier for them, instead of trying to come up with like, you know, entirely new movesets for them. And also, on top of that, they don't take up like a roster spot that could be for like a character that, you know, isn't in the game yet. I feel like that would just work out the best. But let me know what you guys think of my base roster, and I would also like to hear your guys' base rosters for One Justice 3. Like, what would your dream roster look like for that game? Let me know that in the comments below. I would love to like read over like everyone's kind of like base rosters. You can design them in any way. You can design them like the way I designed them, or you can just do anything you want. Just tell me your dream roster. What would be like the perfect roster for you for One Justice 3? But again, let me know down in the comments below. And if you guys did enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. That would be amazing. I'm trying to hit 1,000 subs before the end of the year, so if you guys happen to enjoy this video at any time, please like and subscribe. That would be really amazing. It would help me out a lot, and I would really appreciate it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Later.